everyone, welcome back to the kitchen. Today I have a new old family favorite. This is my Aunt Debbie's corn chowder recipe that the girls enjoyed when she served it to them when they recently visited New Jersey with my dad. I've not had it, but she shared the recipe with me, and I can't wait to show you how this all comes together. Make my Aunt Debbie's corn chowder. Now, quick story. Earlier this summer, my dad took my daughters to New Jersey. They went on an old-fashioned road trip back to his old stomping grounds where he grew up to visit a family friend, and he took my girls with him. As you might know, my mom passed away in February, so he didn't want to go by himself. So he asked the girls if they wanted to go, and they were more than happy to oblige. And along the way, they got to see some really cool things, and they had a really great time. They even got to go see the Statue of Liberty in Ellis Island, so it was totally worth the trip. But even more so, they got to meet relatives that they hadn't met ever before. One of them was my dad's sister, and her name is Debbie. She hosted them while they were visiting, and she made this corn chowder for them, and the girls just raved about it and said I needed to make it. So I got in touch with Aunt Debbie, and she gave me her recipe, which is a good old-fashioned recipe, and it's got a lot of ways that you can alter it, but today I'm gonna make it as close to how she wrote down to make it. I did make a couple of small changes, but I will let you know, and then you'll be able to print out the recipe on my website. I'll leave a link down below. So what you'll need for corn chowder, obviously, is corn. 6 ears of fresh corn that I cooked in the pressure cooker and then cut off the cob, and then I scraped the cobs with the back of a knife to get all of this goodness out of it, because this is going to help. This is not something that Aunt Debbie said to do, but I did it. You're also going to need her recipe calls for 1 small onion diced. So this is half of a very large Vidalia onion. She calls for 1 stalk of celery. I went ahead and did 2 stalks of celery. So this is about a half a cup. She also adds some roasted red peppers. Now these are just from a jar. She said to add some roasted red peppers. And since there's no particular measurement, I went ahead and did approximately a half a cup. She also uses 1 small can of mild rotel, which is tomatoes and green chilies. She mentioned in her recipe that she likes to drain and rinse because her husband doesn't really like the extra spice, but we're not going to do that because we're not bothered by that. Her recipe calls for 2 small red potatoes with the skins left on, diced. This is 2 red potatoes. They weren't so small because I thought maybe we would enjoy a little more potato than she had in her recipe. And we're gonna spice it up with a teaspoon of salt. This is kosher salt, a teaspoon of Hungarian paprika. You can use whatever you have. And her recipe calls for a pinch of cayenne pepper. I used about 1/4 of a teaspoon because
we don't mind.
We don't mind, no. And so we have 6 tablespoons of butter and about 3 tablespoons of flour. Aunt Debbie calls for wondra or cornstarch. Those have both very different ways that you have to use them. So I'm just using all-purpose flour. And then we're going to start with our corn base, all of the liquids that we need. This is water from the bottom of the pressure cooker. I added a little extra water than I normally would when cooking corn on the cob, just so I would purposefully have some corn stock. And if you make corn stock, you can totally do that. But I don't usually have that on hand. But this is going to add that extra corny goodness and deepen the flavor and the richness of the soup. And then we're going to finish it all off with a quart of half and half. You can use milk if you like, but you really do need the richness of the cream. So we're going to start cooking this up, and I'll be right back. While we wait, I want to take a moment to say thank you for watching and being a part of our community. And please consider hitting that thumbs up button if you like what you see. And if you're new to my kitchen, welcome. Please hit that subscribe button. And as always, if you're a tried and true member of the Noreen's Kitchen family, be sure and hit the bell notification button because we don't want you to miss out on all the real food for real people, real easy recipes that we present all the time right here on our YouTube channel and straight from our kitchen. All right, I've heated up my butter. We've gone over to the stove top, and now we're going to start sauteing all of our vegetables. I'm going to go in with the onions, the celery, and the potatoes. Give this a bit of a stir. you're going to want to cook these until they're a bit tender. So Aunt Debbie says about 10 minutes. And we're gonna go ahead and add about half a teaspoon of the salt that we've previously measured out. And then, because you wanna season in layers. So go ahead, give this a toss, and let this cook until the potatoes are nice and tender, the onions are a little bit translucent, and then we'll come back and we'll move forward. Our potatoes, celery, and onion are all nicely cooked. You just want your potatoes to be fork tender. You see some of them that were cut a little smaller have started to break apart, but that's okay because that's just going to help thicken your soup. So Aunt Debbie says add the roasted red peppers at this point. Give it a stir. We're going to add in, I'm going to go ahead and add the spices and the flour. Go ahead and mix that up very well. You don't want to see any traces of white from the flour. You might want to make sure that's all being absorbed by whatever liquid is in the pot. Now, it says to stir in the corn water. There we go. And the rotel. Give this a good stir. And at this point, Aunt Debbie says, and I know I keep saying Aunt Debbie says because that's what she wrote in her recipe. Because I called her up and I asked her. And she's like, you know, I don't really use recipes that much, because I just kind of cook from, you know, from memory. And a lot of us do that. And that's how my mom did things too. So when I say Aunt Debbie says, it's because she wrote a very detailed recipe for me to share with you guys. And she says just to, you know, stir until this thickens up a bit. And it's thickened quite a bit already because it's nice and hot. And then I think we can go ahead and move forward. She says that cook stirring until mixture thickens about 5 minutes. I think we're good. So I'm gonna stir in the corn now. And if it looks a little dry, remember, we still have a whole quart of half and half to add, as well as there's gonna be some juice coming out of this corn. So keep that in mind. Let's stir this in. This looks like it's gonna be really delicious.
Oh, yeah. It smells amazing.
It smells really wonderful. Now it's time to add the half and half. And she does say not to add it too fast, because you don't want it to curdle. So add some and give it a stir. Add some more. That is so pretty. And then we'll add the rest of the half and half. I mean, it is a chowder after all. And she also does mention that if you like it, if it's not thick enough, then you can add additional flour and water or cornstarch and water slurry until it reaches the consistency that you desire. But she also says that she's never had to do that before. So I'm gonna bring this up to just the slightest simmer, and then we're gonna go ahead and see where the consistency is. I'm going to salt and pepper to taste. Always taste your food before you serve it. And then what I'm gonna do is meet you back over at the counter with a serving of this delicious corn chowder from my Aunt Debbie. We went ahead and we brought the corn chowder to a bit of a simmer. Not even, it was like a whisper of a simmer, just to get everything nicely heated and blended together. And then I served it up for you guys. I have some toppings if you so choose. I'm gonna go ahead and do it up right. So I'm gonna put just like the smallest dollop of sour cream right on the top, because how could that be bad, right? And then a sprinkling of green onion. I really wanted chives, but the grocery store was out. So, and then I have some bacon. I would love to make this with bacon at the base of this soup. I decided to use the bacon on the top instead because I really wanted to make Aunt Debbie's soup the way that she wrote to make it. Because altering it beyond the way I did would not be her recipe at all. So that's what I wanted to share with you, was her recipe. And it's delicious. We did give it a taste. You can top this however you like. And there are several ways that you could even take and alter this. You could make this is pretty much, without the bacon, is vegetarian. You could make it vegan by using vegetable stock and coconut milk, or almond milk, or oat milk. You could make this into a bisque by adding some fresh lump crab meat to it. I think that would be seriously delicious. Corn and crab chowder, come on, that sounds amazing. So this is my Aunt Debbie's corn chowder recipe. I hope that you give it a try, and I hope that you love it. And until next time, I'll see ya.